In this last session today, we bring together two companies with a market cap of, I think, close to two companies, NVIDIA Microsoft, who are vying for the biggest market caps of any company today, about $6 trillion between them. And we also have Telus, Canadian Telco, not quite a $6 trillion market cap, but doing pretty well. And Amdocs, which has been very fast and very aggressive in terms of embracing AI, GenAI. So I'm going to hand over now to Sarit Asaf, General Manager of Amdocs, who's going to run the last panel discussion with David Seda, GMA AI Marketing at Microsoft, Laila Kilan, Global Head of Business Development at NVIDIA, and Saeed Shamsi, or Otofat Shamsi, Director of Engineering at Telus. So welcome to the stage.
So happy to be here with you. I'm on stage with the two partners of mine, Microsoft and NVIDIA, that in the past 2 years we are working to build the new generative AI-led engagement center platform. So happy to be here with you. And Saeed from Telus, our customer, that will tell us later more about the experiences of generative AI and how Telus are using this. So in our last session, we will try to bring more tools and critical elements that will help Telco to actually unlock the transformative power of generative AI. And Laila, I'll start with you. We started working together 2 years ago, building a maze.
Yes.
And what we realized that NVIDIA is known for building tailored solution for different industries. So you started with the health industry, and I can tell from first-hand experience that we run our telco RAG on NVIDIA hardware, and we were able to improve KPIs and efficiencies dramatically. We were able to reduce by 80% our token consumptions. We were able to increase our query efficiencies and to reduce the query latencies in 60%. So that's, for us, were remarkable achievement in order to make and to have AI affordable, because we all know the good is that AI, GenAI brings, but we also need to make it kind of cost-effective. So NVIDIA has open source model, and would you like explaining this forum, how the telecom industry, telcos, can take this open source model and tailor this for their own needs?
Sure. So first, thank you for having us. We're very proud of the partnership with a large ecosystems, definitely with Microsoft. We're working with you. So maybe I'll start by kind of breaking the answers to two parts. I'll start on the business element, and then I'm going to dive into the technology part. On the business part, when we went and started working with the telco, right, NVIDIA is an AI platform. It has the hardware and the operating system to enable AI and generative AI. And when we started working with the telcos, immediately we saw kind of two camps. Camp number one, around 70% of the use case that we saw was, hey, I want to use GenAI, but it needs to be kind of easy to consume within my platform, within my existing solutions. I don't want to even touch, I don't even want to know what the model's underneath it. I don't have the skills to customize the model. So this is where we kind of reached into the ecosystem of our partners. Definitely OpenAI is one of them. We worked with partners like yourself, right? Amdocs, that kind of build and powered your platform with open source models and our technology behind it. There's another camp, almost 30% of the use cases where telco said, look, I want to work on it. I don't necessarily have the skills, but I want to accelerate the time to deploy large language model. So this is where we work with empowering GSIs or Amdocs professional services, your service team, to kind of help the telco realize the value faster in a more bespoke. So that's from business perspective, right? But then comes the questions, what is the technology underneath that? So Again, our platform is for accelerating AI. So we created a framework that's called NeMo. Think about it as a set of microservices that helps deploy and accelerate the deployment of generative AI. Starts with microservices like data curation, of microservices like Evaluator, NeMo Evaluator, that helps you to evaluate which open source model best fit for you. NeMo Customizer that helps you customize the model much more easily. There's so many techniques in between LoRa and PEF and SFT. Which one would I even use, right? So it helps you create that very easily. Your retriever framework that helps you update the model constantly, because I think our team, the panelists before us talked about it, right? Models are not dead. They need to keep updating. And then putting NeMo guardrails to make sure that the right content is coming up. But more importantly, we just announced NeMo inferencing microservices. Think about it as a container that harness an open source models, because those will change constantly, right? They kind of come out constantly. So we harness the model with a robust inferencing engine, technologies like TRT, LLM, and Triton, and so forth. But we harness it in a way that boosts the inferencing of the performance of the model, right? And those NIMs are easily to deploy. You can make it on cloud, on Azure, it could be on AWS, and it could be on-prem. So long story short, we really equip both the ecosystem and the telcos with an easier way to deploy and see the value from generative AI.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
David, moving to you. So when we started building this engagement platform, customer engagement platform 2 years ago, I guess GenAI was kind of only at the start, on the beginning. And then what we realized is that getting Copilot inside of the platform kind of boosts completely the experiences for the agent, for the salesperson. Can you tell more about how do you enable telcos to customize the model while taking into consideration performance, multilingual, that you need anyhow to deal with in a global domain? So how do you actually help telco to customize the model themselves?
Thanks for the question. One is, you heard Scott in the session before with Sylvie talk about the two fronts where telcos are trying to drive improvements. One is on the internal side with employees. So you mentioned with co-pilots inside the organization, we have co-pilots for sales, co-pilots for different functions within the enterprise, and we have tools to allow operators to customize those co-pilots. So for example, skills is an issue. And so you heard Scott talk about the fact that he has junior developers that he'd like to become as proficient as his senior developers. So we have tools that are low code, no code. So you can take a co-pilot for M365 with a low code tool like Copilot Studio. And so you can have developers who aren't code first, customize the co-pilots, again, for internal employee productivity. On the second side, he talked about customer facing.
Correct.
Right? And so we need to make tools for those as well, how you customize and extend those. And
you need to connect it to the telco industry. So,
yeah.
So because agents you have in different domains and different industries. So how can you help telco to do that?
So one of the things with telcos, I mean, I spent 13 years at Cisco, marketing and selling to telcos. And one of the things with telcos is every telco has a unique infrastructure because there's so much legacy with all telcos. One of the great things about telcos is if you look at technology around the world, telcos is one of the most sustaining technologies of any industry. It's been there forever. And with all the changes in technology and services and devices, these networks are still working, they're still robust.
Correct.
The challenge is, therefore, every telco wants flexibility, but with flexibility comes complexity. right? And so one of the things telcos are trying to do is how do I abstract away that complexity so that as technologies move, I can continue to move my services without having to re-architect things and rebuild things. So one of the things we're doing, for example, is looking at, you'll see that later this year, is an API layer that will abstract out. So for example, you heard Scott talk about the fact that telcos will be using multiple models. You'll be using open source models, you'll be using SLMs, you'll be using LLMs. And one of the things we want to do is have this API so that if you build your app, you can just switch any language model without having to re-architect the app, change any code in the app. So for example, if you go to Copilot today on your device, or at the bottom of Copilot, you'll see 3 buttons that says, make it more conversational, make it more abstract, make it more precise. When you click those buttons, you're actually switching to a different language model. One of those buttons is GPT 3.5. One is a different LLM, but you don't know that. You want that same flexibility when you're building your apps. You want to be able to switch and say, I found a more efficient model, and I want to switch to that without touching my code. And so those are the kinds of things. We're a tools company and a platform company. So we have to make the tools easier for developers, and then we have to make it easier for the telco so they can have their flexibility without the complexity of an environment that they've built over decades and decades.
So you are trying to apply a plug-and-play approach for LLMs, for tools.
That's exactly what's needed, because we think the models are going to be evolving so quickly. And right now, for example, we have people using a GPT model, but then for a specific task, you may offload it to an SLM like a 5.3 to do that specific task. And especially when you start getting into conversational, like Vodafone has developed the Super Toby. Super Toby is multilingual. The thing about language is that a generalized LLM, even like GPT-4 can understand, is there's nuance in languages that no generalized LLM can know. You have to train it for that. And second is, with different languages, you may have very similar requests from your customer, but they're slightly different. And so you have to fine-tune an LLM for that. So you may have an LLM just for the multilingual, whereas a generalized LLM may solve every other customer issue. So we have to make that flexibility without the sophistication.
Thank you. Said, we are exploring together some GenAI use cases, mainly in the billing domains. Can you tell us more what Telus are doing, both internal speaking and external for customers in the GenAI front?
For sure. So we look at the whole movement, and then from the beginning, we realized that we need to have an enterprise-grade platform. So we built our own platform to manage, orchestrate for observability, as well as for maintenance access to those different models. So we try to address three questions or 3 problems that we had. One was the flexibility. As David mentions, the whole LLM model is moving very, very fast. So we want to be able to switch or swap different models as per need of the use cases. So, and then shield that from our API level, and then shield that from the experience level. So it should be the omni-channel, whether it is for our internal team members, or whether it's for our customers, or whether it's for bot. The second one is the maintenance and management aspects of it. We are a large enterprise. The role-based access is very important. So we had to build that maintenance on top of that. The model that we have, be able to control who has access, how it's going to be accessing, and then also the data sovereignty is very important for us. We are operating in Canada, and the regulation and the ruling, we have to apply all of those regulations. The customer data cannot cross the border. So how you can manage the data sovereignty, as well as the IP that we have. So we have our own private RAG. So once we use the Copilot, then the data is residing with our own databases or vector databases. And then the third one is that the trustworthy that I just mentioned about the data sovereignty as well. So if we look at those problems, we knew that we need to have that enterprise. So to be more pragmatic, we started with the foundations. We started to building those platforms, and then then now we have the opportunity to build more co-pilots. So we can build it internally, we have the tools, or we can use any third-party co-pilot as well, depending on the use case. So we are looking at the different use cases to be able to expand it. Some of the use cases that we have developed was for our internal team members, something like, as a couple of the different companies mentioned, for the HR policies. So as opposed us to contact someone for we call it the PNC, people and culture, then we have this knowledge base already there, and the people can interact with it and get the information. For our customers, we have the support being there. So we have telus.com/support. That's conversational. The customers can basically ask questions, if the device doesn't work, if they have problems with any of the devices that we provide. And then also on the development side, we are using a GitHub Copilot, helping the developers to be more efficient. I always put the 40-40-20 rule for my team. 40% for your individuals, how you can learn and be more efficient. 40% for the overall, within our group, within the companies, and 20% be better efficiencies for our customers, so they have reduced 20% of their effort to interact with us. I just saw the previous presentation that they talk about the 12%, so that is our goal, between 12 to 20% to be more efficient for our customer, so it's simple and easier for them to interact with us.
Thank you very much. I'll just share from Amdocs experiences. So we've been working together to build this ecosystem of generative AI agents or capabilities. So we are not in the business of building platform. That's why we have great partners. What we did is embedding inside of each one of our products, co-pilot-like approach. Said, you said co-pilot is a bit tricky word to be used, for sure. But what we felt like, first of all, we need to have all our products have the co-pilot capabilities. Otherwise, no one will use them in the future. They need to have this basic, fundamental generative AI embedded in. What we added on top, because we understood that many companies will experiment and will start small. So we created this ecosystem of capabilities, either billing queries or network use cases that can be consumed and used on top of any BSS or OSS system. That's what we built. Looking kind of to the future, how do you see GenAI evolve in telco? What kind of the next, if we'll meet again, a year from now, where will the telco be? Let's start, Said, from you.
So far, we just touched the tip of iceberg. So we know that there is going to be lots more to do. The next for us would be that, how we can scale it up. We do not want to create just single team, a small team that they have the domain knowledge, that we have a data scientist. So we want to make it the model that the business can come up with their ideas, and then we can develop it quickly, but then having them to be able to scale it, and then to be able to apply it to different type of the use cases. We want to start with our customer first, and looking at the whole journeys around the customers, the LBGAP journeys, and looking for all of those. We talk about some of the low-hanging fruit, which is the customer interactions or customer service, something like billing. We know that 50% of our calls is billing related. Why my bill is different from the last month? So those can be answered very quickly. Now we have all the technology. We need to be able to come up with those ideas and be able to scale it up very quickly. Bring the ideas, try it, do the A/B testing, and then have the business run it by themselves. Something like the low-code, no-code aspects. So then they are not relying on kind of a centralized IT to be able to develop everything from the ground up. We create the foundations and then the models. Then they can run with it. They can scale it up quickly. So I think that will be next 12 months for us.
Lilac?
I see 4 trends.
Okay.
And I'll try to kind of simplify it a little bit. So the first one, you heard a lot about the different models. I want you to think about the different models as expert, as your employees. Right? You're going to have an employee that is good in billing. You're going to have an expert model that's really good in fulfillment. I think we talked about the ability to switch and decide which one is the best. But I think the future is all about how do we connect those experts together, right? And how do you bring those to create like a manager, like perhaps that master model that can disseminate the right task, the right employee, and orchestrate that. Okay, so that's the first trend that I see. I think the telcos had not yet started working with the multimodality. We're a lot in that text-to-text, text-to-language, but the multimodality, all of you here as a telco, I worked at AT&T 17 years, we have tons of images for every work that was completed, drones images and videos that's out there. Then comes the question of how do we utilize it as a telco to create that text to image, image to text, video to video, and so forth. Think about that efficiency, that you could be a technician on the field seeing, show me a video of how to install an antenna at the top of a building that's in a corner of two streets, right? So think about that as a second trend. I think the third trend is digital humans. Jensen spent a lot of time about it in Computex. This is how do you take a large language model and then put it behind a digital human? And that becomes a totally different interaction with your customers, right? Either in a call center, either in a retail store. How do you bring that experience to be totally dynamic as a brand facing 24/7, right? And the last trend I'll say, it's, if we're going to be here next year or maybe 18 months from now, we're going to see the telco bridging into the monetization beyond themselves, right? So right now, the most of the focus is around creating the internal savings and building the skills to create internal value. But it's going to turn into how do I help my enterprise bank account, bank enterprises? How do I help my small and medium large businesses at the same time? So I think that would be the first trend, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing that coming up.
Lilac, it's like you've been participating yesterday in our TMF board meetings.
Okay, I did that.
We had
Great minds think alike.
3 hours discussion about that, and many of your kind of points were discussed yesterday. So great mind think alike.
So a year from now, you're going to buy me a glass of wine if we were right?
Let's see. Let's see.
I'll pick up on two things that Lilac actually pointed out very well. I think customer experiences and brand. Every telco that I've ever worked with has a brand that they want to maintain and improve and make sure that everything that goes out really respects the brand. And when I started in AI, by the way, it was in the 1980s. I spent 12 years at Apple doing natural language processing, so think Siri and all those kinds of things. And I think of customer experiences, and everybody has a brand and they want a customer experience. So I think two things. One is how functions like marketing can begin to become more efficient and more creative with these GenAI applications. And two is how you create the multimodal experience for your end customer.
Yeah.
So, today we're talking about conversation, just language, but how do we bring in images and video? I mean, the world is a video world, and the more video that runs on your networks, the more meters that run and the more money you make. So, but how do you make that respond to the end user, your customer, rather than being pushed out, have them pull because they want all of those experiences. So I think multimodal experiences for your end customers, and then business functions beginning to take those creative abilities to extend your brand and put personality in your brand, the empathy that somebody talked about. How do we get to where these things are more empathetic and can really project the brand we want?
I couldn't agree more, knowing that the next generation, the new generation, are not calling the call center, are not texting the call center. They use TikTok and other social channel to interact and video, and anyhow, this is their only channel. I will just add on top, I think it would be interesting to see in 12 months from now whether telcos will continue managing their own platform, because we heard Telus, we heard Vodafone. Each and every telco is building its own platform. So I wonder how it will be in 12 months from now, whether it will continue the trend or will find synergies between telcos. And also, I would be very kind of keen to see that we are moving from being reactive meaning helping the sales agent or the agent in the store as serving customer or assisting customers to much more a proactive move, meaning because we have this familiarity with the customer itself, with the end user, we know in advance how to proactively address his problem rather him being calling the call center. So hopefully,
Can I make one other prediction? I think, especially with language, having phone calls between two people who speak different languages and having real-time translation.
Nice.
I think a year from now we'll have it.
Nice.
But I agree, and I think we also omitted one big part, which is AI and the networks. We talked a lot about customer
Autonomous
experience,
network, yeah.
but this whole AI and the RAN driven by AI, kind of native to that. We didn't talk about it, but I think we should talk about it because we just announced the AI RAN Alliance, Microsoft and so forth together. That kind of natively ran with AI is going to be the key. How do you get more spectral efficiency? How do you use the network in downtime to get more AI running at the same time? I think that's going to be another big issue, another big topic that's going to happen next year. Yep.
Good. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? Let's do that.
You have a question? Put your hand up and we'll come and find you. So while you're all thinking, I have a question back to you all, which is telecoms is a very heavily standardized industry. Telcos like to move in the same direction with certainty about technology investments. When it comes to your strategy as a telco around building AI competence, capabilities, use cases, are all telcos going to end up following in the same path, the same direction? Where might telcos diverge based on the skills they may or may not have, the size of the business, their commercial strategy? Is it clear to you that there's going to be paths of divergence? Or are we basically just going to be following the same path, maybe some players faster than others? That's a question for everybody, really. So you all look stunned into.
No, not stunned. I could take a stab. I think there is a little bit of a different approach about the role of the telcos in being an AI player, either from the self and for the nation. So we're seeing more telcos that are saying, look, I'm going to build an AI factory, and that AI factory will serve not only me as a telco as a first tenant, but also it will serve enterprises' need, the startup need, the government, and the sovereignty. And there's some telcos that are saying, okay, I'm not necessarily going to take that role. I'm going to first focus on creating my value, kind of creating a small factory or an AI center of excellence where I'm going to focus on, customer experience, the network, and the productivity. So right now I see that as the most differentiated path. As far as the focus that they're doing for themselves, the extraction of the value from GenAI for their own savings, most of the telcos are doing the same kind of targeted effort to those three topics. And I say, and again, the approach is, do I take a partner to start fast, or do I start by myself? I think there is more of a realization that to move fast, they need the partners.
Thank you.
So for us at Telus, we are looking at our social purpose as well. So last year, conference theme was Telco to Telecom.
Yeah.
So moving telco to become more software. And that's what we started a few years back. So our social purpose is that to make sure that we are filling up the gap for the digital divide. So everyone has, all humans are connected. And then we are also providing or bringing the technology, including the AI. So the AI to me is part of that, the movement, bringing it to the health and revolutionizing the health industry, and also revolutionizing the food chain systems. So having that technology and then applying the different aspects, because we are in the connectivity. So if you have the farm and in the farm management or in the agronomy aspects, you need to collect lots of data. You have lots of the IoTs that needs connectivity.
Yeah.
But then you apply the GenAI in all of those devices, and you look at the whole supply chain to making sure that we are producing better food, better quality, as well as distributing it better. So we are in that cycle as well. I mentioned about the health. The next one is the security. So we are in the security business, providing the security for everyone within the Canadian. And then the main one is the smart home, bringing everything, all devices in the home together, including the companionship that we have for supporting the elders, as well as the security I just mentioned. So then basically there's kind of the movement or evolutions for the telcos to become a software company, and then finding the different verticals. We chose those verticals as it is more aligned with our social purpose.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest opportunities always in any big technology change is actually small and medium commercial enterprises. So, we can all serve banks, we can all serve large hospitals, but when you think about the population of the world and how many people are running small businesses, a telco is usually the one place where they can get services, a small business can get services that make them almost equal to at least levels of playing field with larger enterprise. So if telcos are focused on small and medium commercial enterprise, I think there'll be great opportunity to bring GenAI solutions to that population, because there's a lot of those around the world, and they drive most economies when you actually break down the economies.
So that was picking up on Dario's point before. So in terms of where the differentiation applies, the differentiation is more around the products and services that you infuse with AI, whereas the internal use of AI, there might be more commonalities between telcos. That's kind of what I'm hearing in your different ways. Okay, questions from gentlemen in front of me. Do you have a microphone? Sorry, you'll come next. Apologies.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the wonderful discussion. I'm Bharat from Dell, and I want to seek your opinion on, do you see the role of LLMs, maybe a small LLMs running at the edge? Do you see some kind of use cases that might be coming up soon, or do you think for the operational use cases, it is better left to the traditional AI that is already there, especially at the edge?
Well, I can say that we definitely see use cases at the edge. So for example, farmers, real-time, for example, automobiles, right? Imagine you're in a car and you go through a tunnel, right? You still want, if you're using an LLM in the car, or a language model in the car, you still want it to work when you don't have connectivity. And so you will have small language models running on device, and they'll often talk to something on the edge. So you can think of many use cases where you'll see at the edge and on device. We think those will be there.
How about the telco operations as operating the telco itself from the telco operators? Do they run some LLMs on the edge devices or on the edge servers or something of that sort?
I can take that. So it all is, first of all, it needs to define what's the edge. Is it the network edge? Is it the device edge? There's a full for that. But first and foremost, I want you to think about that inferencing will happen at the edge, right? So if you think about it, it's not going to be centralized. It has to be distributed. There is not enough pipes to take all of the prompts in the United States into a centralized location in the cloud. It has to be distributed, right? So first of all, as one of the major workload that's going to happen at the edge is the inferencing. And by the way, inferencing is much more heavier workload from volume perspective than training. Now, your second question is there operational use case that could be happening at the edge? And the answer is absolutely yes. As model gets smaller, you can start putting them in the edge. Actually, look at what Apple has just announced, right? There's going to be some work that's going to be on that iPhone, some inferencing and queries that's going to happen there. Some of it is going to go to OpenAI. That same dynamic should happen in the telcos when you talk about IoT devices. You could start doing some IoT security device LLM on the device itself, but then you talk about a larger security that might be at the cloud level and more centralized. So that distribution definitely should you expect for that to happen.
Thank you.
Hi. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. I heard a lot about generative AI, and they kind of a synonym with large language models, but there are two other things with synthetic data and digital twins. Are there some future in telcos for that, or?
Is that, I can, do you guys want to take? You could start.
You said
synthetic
digital twins?
data and digital twins.
Yeah, I mean, synthetic data. So there's different kind of points of view, philosophies on synthetic data. One is there are some industries, I came from healthcare, and there are some industries like healthcare where synthetic data is almost a no-no because the FDA wants to make sure that you're using real patient data versus synthetic data to train models, etc. But other industries are okay with synthetic data. The problem is you can't get enough real world data. And so sometimes the only way if you're building, whether it's your own LLM or customizing an LLM, you need synthetic data because there's not enough data or it's locked in somebody else's proprietary place that you can't get to. So synthetic data will be used depending on what your use case is for using it to train a model or to retrain a model, right? With digital twins, there's absolutely use cases for digital twins. In fact, that was one of the biggest use cases in healthcare because you want to take a human being and create a digital twin of a human being and try all of the medical treatments on the digital twin to see whether it's appropriate for the real human being. So there are many use cases for digital twins. When we were designing hospitals, before we built a hospital, we would take it to the board and we would show them what the hospital looked like and how it operated in terms of its efficiency, how quickly in and out patients got before actually physically building a hospital. We use digital twins. So many, many use cases for digital twins. Just depends on the industry and the regulations on what kind of data you use to build the twin.
There is a huge application for digital twins in telco in addition to that. I want you to think about how long does it take you today to set up a small cell or a tower? You need to send 10 technicians to figure out where to place the tower. Heavy.ai is one of the ISV that works in NVIDIA. They actually showed, and they're working with several telcos around the world, how you can start using digital twin to easily decide where to place the right tower. You start running a simulation, a digital twin of your network. In addition to that, we have other partner, Wipro actually did a digital twin that shows how do you doing traffic routing of the network. How do you optimize for that? There's digital twin applications for actually towers to do the maintenance of the towers. So digital twin application in telcos is the next one. So actually, I take it back. Maybe I should have had the fifth or the sixth trend, which is the use of digital twin. Text to digital twin is a critical one. Synthetic data, there is no way telco can start monetizing large language model without creating synthetic data. You guys know it's not going to be hard for a healthcare company to give telco their data. We've tried it in 2012. It didn't work. But the ability to start generating synthetic data, right, for whatever enterprise that you're going to work with is going to be the key to your ability to monetize in the long run LLMs.
I'll just add that I think it's going to be a combination, like always.
Yep.
So in order to have LLM and GenAI cost-effective and affordable, we obviously will tune the data with the models with synthetic data and with digital twins. I think they will be coexist side by side. While when you want to get to a higher level of accuracy, then you might use real data. So it will always be a combination, and I, as my colleague here, do see that digital twin are going to stay with us, not only in the network, but also in the digital area, like having a twin of myself, or like
A twin of a customer to
Yes.
start doing simulations for the customer behavior. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we are kind of playing with.
So if I could ask one last question, which is, when do we need, as an industry, as a telecoms operator, telecoms network, and start thinking about how the growth of AI traffic is going to change how we build our networks? Because let's face it, the internet has changed how we built telecoms networks. So AI, is it just too early? Is it going to be, do we see any trends yet in terms of the type of traffic we're seeing? You mentioned edge before. So that's clearly going to be an issue. So are we at the stage yet where we should be thinking about that, or too far away?
For sure. I think that topic, service providers always struggle on how to monetize the network, meaning today the infrastructure enables others to build solutions and applications on top. And service providers don't want to become kind of only the infrastructure player, the dumb pipe that transfer the data. So that's I think, a major challenge we are trying to address in terms of how to act differently in the generative AI ecosystem, because in 5G, we couldn't really, I don't think the industry was able to find the right monetization model in 5G. In GenAI, there is no doubt the industry will need to have some kind of new models around it.
Thank you. Okay, we're out of time. So Saeed, Lilac, David, and Sarit, thank you so much for a great panel.